Okay, I see it's 13:32. So I think because we are also live streamed for this final session, I really want to start on time and welcome to these very last 2 hours of our first Blue Mission Arena. Great that so many people are still here. I think, at least my feeling was that the past days were pretty intensive. A lot of talking, a lot of interaction. So you wonder, what we may sort of come up with new in these last 2 hours. Perhaps not so much new, but now your role is changing. So when we got the proposal for sort of being the lighthouse coordinators for the mission in the Baltic and the North Sea, actually all the CSAs got the task to run stakeholder assemblies, mission assemblies, citizen assemblies. So to get in the democracy element into sort of the mission involvement. So I hope you feel honored that you will now, in the next 1.5 hours, you will act as our parliament, as our assembly, in terms of giving really now votes, your opinion, in terms of the action points we had identified prior to the arena, and where a lot of people here now in the background have worked on them, drilled them now in the last minute in order to present them to you in the stage of post-arena. So in terms of what has been discussed yesterday, the day before, and today. And you are expected to give your vote on this, okay? And this means that it is yet again, I think now by sort of, you are very much used to using Slido. And this is now really important that you are actually, getting into Slido now, that you type in, these figures. And I hope that I will see many people coming up in terms of numbers. Are you all in there? Yeah? Okay. So, and basically what I would like you to do is that you, in order just as a test case, this is not, now part of the mission assembly as your role as parliamentarian, but I'm sure that all of you will, either this afternoon or tomorrow, you come home. You come home to either really to your loved ones or, to your office colleagues, and you open the door and they are asking you, hey, how was it? So please write what you would sort of say, how was it at the arena number 1? And I'm looking especially not only on the words, but I'm actually also looking at the figures, because there are still more than 67 people here in the room. And I would like to have as many people sort of, contributing to the Slido in the final session as possible. Okay. Great. Thanks a lot for that. And with that, I would like to actually give the word to our visual recorder, Maria, who has been working very hard over the course of the past 2.5 days in order to come up with the big picture. What was your impression, Maria? Now the floor is to you to guide us through what you, as sort of a visual recorder, got out of the arena.
It's been amazing, and I'm so thankful that I could take part of this conference and listen to all of you. And I will guide you through this picture so that you can remember this conference and also the actions that you have been talking about taking. Even better, hopefully, with the picture. So I will change the mode so I can zoom in and show you closely. So we'll start here in the multi-use park area. And this is one theme that you want to see a change within. You want to see that there is possibility to get insurance, infrastructure, permits, commercialization of these multi-use parks. And you can see there is this tiny tourist. You know, it's super trendy with mermaid tails. That's why he is using that to explore what is underneath this park. You can also see there is a farm. And there's also this blue corridor. You see it's going underneath and then also continuing in the picture. And we'll continue to this other area in the picture. Here you can see there is this local community who is actually co-managing and monitoring this MPA. And we have this fish with the glasses. I don't remember, I'm not sure if you remember, but I remember the slide that was shown yesterday with the fishes sitting around the table with glasses. And one of these fishes are asking, national borders, where will I live in 30 years? And there's a lot of things that you talked about in relation to MPAs, both that using the tools that is already there, and also to measure biodiversity and have a focus on quality was one of the things that you talked a lot about. And you can see the blue corridor going up to the land. So we'll continue here. And here we can see a fisher person on my way to marine spatial planning meeting, she's saying. And you see, she's waving at someone at the shore. How can I help? So this was also a big threat and theme, how to use the marine spatial planning as a tool, and also a way to include people in the process, different stakeholders. Here are some other stakeholders. This is from the workshop that was called that was presented, or maybe one presentation was called Community Garden, but it had a focus on community. And one of the sayings there was community first, and also the role that the community can have, both in relation to monitoring, co-managing, but also behavioral change. And in the examples that I was listening to, they had a close connection to the school. So that's why you can see these little dots with flytvästar. Yeah, you know, for swimming, security. They had a strong relationship to them. And here we can see as well, you have this part where you can see all of these houses. And they're quite close to each other, because that was something that you talked a lot about. Relationships, stronger relationships and collaboration in between governance, industry, academia, SME. You can see there's going a little line from the industry to this RAS bubble or container. And you can see these two people shaking hands and also showing how a must is to create matchmaking if innovation is going to happen. And we also have this little lake or freshwater area. Many of you have been talking about not to forget freshwater in the planning. And here we have the table. I'll zoom into the table. Here were some of the things I heard about. You see there's hens, there's some kind of wolf dog. It's supposed to be a dog eating mussels. And there's hamburger, caviar, biomaterial, fertilizer, cosmetic. So there was a lot of things you mentioned and talked about that the ocean economy could develop from. So some of the local products. And then I'll finish off with this person sitting in the corner. Here is a person who is potentially going to join a vocational training here in the Blue Village. Could be a future entrepreneur. He's asking his mother, "Can I eat this?" And here we have the blue Spotify. I think I heard it mentioned at least 20 times. So it must be a new buzzword. Okay, so I will zoom out again and hope that this picture can help you remember all the changes and actions that will happen soon. Yeah. I will dock out.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. And I think, first of all, I mean, Maria is still around here for the next 2 hours. We have booked her. And the idea of sort of having this as a visual is that sometimes try to look at it really as a picture. I mean, as a picture, and not so much from the content side, but where you sort of see the picture and you suddenly may see, oh, but there is still something missing. Yeah. Or this aspect looks not exactly on how I would sort of, present it. Therefore, if you find that, Maria is here still. She will actually also document a little bit if there are changes, if there is something happening now during our voting session, that she will actually also integrate this into the picture. But also, really, please feel free after this assembly to come up with her and basically take a look and sort of, give your opinion on the picture and perhaps still sort of some little changes in terms of what you would like to see there. Yeah? Okay. Thanks, Maria. With that, I would like to actually move to the assembly session. And for that, I would like to ask our 8 rapporteurs to come up to the stage, join me here, in order to present and actually defend your various action points. In the meantime, please go into the Slido once more, because what we also, in order to have voting, it is also, of course, important to know who is in this room, who is actually voting, who is it who is sort of, presenting their opinions. And for that, we have again prepared some little questions. I hope they are now coming up on Slido. So yes, there was the Women in the Blue Economy session. So how's the distribution here? Okay, yeah. So I think, at least here, we have not sort of so much an issue of a gender gap, or rather sort of a underrepresentation of female power. Good. Next question is also on age, because we want to know which age groups are represented here. You don't have to type in your exact age, but would just be interesting to see Wow, there's a lot of youth around here. That's great. I will not tell you in which group now. You can guess in which one I would be. Okay, interesting. How many have we now? Okay, I think then keep this, of course. And then we actually would like to have a final question, and that is not sort of a question in terms of, am I a researcher, am I a project manager, who am I an industry representative? But it's more a question on how you feel, it's your own self-assessment, to what extent you are playing a role in the implementation of the mission Restore Our Ocean. To what extent do you think are you sort of part of the implementation community? Great. Yeah, so I think we have a very good mission assembly around here, which is really sort of part of the Mission Restore Our Oceans community and wants to drive the implementation. So very good that we have such a good electorate. With that, I would like to sort of then move now to our various sessions. And yes, I will try, you have the, we don't do it with elevator pitches, which may sort of then end up on the 200th floor or whatever. So I would like you to be precise. And we have actually also then the support of the PowerPoint. And we would like to move first to blue biomass production in the region. And Frederick, you have been around, you have been even a cook here. So I think also a round of applause for the Taste of the Sea session. So what were your sort of takens in terms of your main action points you would like to suggest here to the electorate in terms of what are the most important points to be taken tomorrow in terms of increasing really sustainable biomass production in this region, not in Asia, in this region?
So I'll do my best. I obviously wasn't in every single session, but was listening to lots of very interesting presentations, had lots of interesting discussions. And the key action points, we tried to kind of put them down into, well, we've chosen 8. And it's about increasing the amount of biomass. And in many of the workshops, there's this kind of chicken and egg discussion, like we need the market pull from consumers, but we also need the volumes to provide enough for those consumers. And if we put this in the context of the mission objectives, so we're in this first phase until 2026. I think we need to have, well, the consensus was probably that we need both at the same time to happen in parallel. So we need the concrete examples by 2026 and plans, concrete plans that we can then put into implementation from 2026 to 2030. So these are the 8 points that we've come up with. So I'll just go through them very quickly. So we want to have these concrete examples and plans in place to recommend to the Commission to support us with. And that's decoupled licensing and monitoring for zero impact or low trophic aquaculture. So not going through the same process as, let's say, offshore finfish aquaculture, because it is a unique system. To allow low trophic cultivation as a form of ocean regeneration, either in or alongside MPAs, and there's many discussions going on about MPAs and stricter protected areas. Yeah, that is one probably to be discussed even further. Then to have a plan for or put in place a framework, either local, national or regional, for the quantification and monetization of ecosystem services. So this doesn't need to be a framework for the whole of Europe. We could just have one very good concrete example where we can say, let's replicate that in this country, this other country, and there could then be a partnership between the Nordic countries that is represented here. Then a framework for long-term financial incentives, akin to the Common Agricultural Policy. That's something farmers are increasingly calling for, is long-term financial support. There's a basic payment scheme for agriculture farmers, subsidies in other words. So that is another one. Can we go to the next slide, please? And the topic of industrial symbiosis, there was a workshop hosted by my colleague Maria Jose for this, and especially there were comments from some of the local authorities here about closer collaboration between the public and the private sector. So that's local authorities and private companies setting up these clusters, both on land and at sea. So this is relevant for multi-use as well. Number 6, demonstrating cooperatives, so pooling resources. So if we're talking about this chicken and egg of production, how do we achieve that critical biomass? Then lots of small producers putting their biomass together is one way to do it. And in the Communicating Blue Food workshop just before, we were talking about mixed proteins, hybrid proteins, using different sources of food to make these kind of new blue foods. Number 7, sites included in spatial plans, both on land and at sea. So strategic placement, in other words, of cultivation sites, of protected areas. It needs to have a more, what was the word? Bioregional approach, or the eco-regional approach. So that also requires collaboration between Norway and Sweden and Denmark and Germany. Number 8, to have a concrete plan or example of RAS regulatory frameworks with a systems approach, and facilitating interdepartmental and cross-regional alignment. So the way we do RAS should be at least a similar process in different countries. Yes, so I think that's it. But I think you'll be asked to then choose your top 3 of these, I think, and just think about what we can achieve or have concrete examples of by 2026, so within the next 2 years, and what can then be implemented or upscaled by 2030.
Exactly. So we see it now, the slider already working. So the task is now the following, that be in the shoes, in the headset of a decision maker. You are the ones who are guiding the mission implementation. And I mean, in reality, in politics, you cannot have everything. Resources are limited. So you have to make sometimes choices, and you have to prioritize. So what we want to know from your side, I know we want to have it all, but what would be your 3 actions out of the 8 you would really think are the most important to start doing tomorrow, and to get also perhaps the funding from, or the support from, etc., tomorrow, in order to get the results in 2030, but actually also to achieve deployment of the mission in 2026. I see now that there are 54 votes coming in. And by the way, this is now also, once you have done your voting, you also have the chance to sort of, add a new comment. I mean, perhaps there is an action point still we have not considered. And, of course, we want to take it on board also for our finalization of these first Arena 1 declaration or conclusions, etc., so that we can consider them. So please also put in your, if you think there is still something much more important, then don't forget to put them in. So stand up here. Don't see it all. What has been coming in here? I'm still waiting a little bit more, but There's no day. Okay, but I think we have actually already sort of quite an interesting voting coming in. So very clearly sort of the framework for actually making clear what kind of ecosystem services are produced by this local biomass, as well as monetizing it. My voice is disappearing, but anyway. And to get long-term financial incentives, and that's interesting, actually to also really create parks for industrial symbiosis, so the multi-use setup on land, but also on sea. Thanks a lot for that. This is still open. And now we are moving to, of course, multi-use was mentioned. It was the United Final Conference. You had long debates also already over the last days, Ivana. But from all out of this, what have you concluded in terms of the main 8 take-home messages and action points?
It's difficult, I have to say. Is this working? Yeah, it's working. Okay. I think it's very difficult to pick on 8. We had a lot of discussions. We had 7+ sessions focusing on this concept of multi-use in the framework of the United event, and I had a feeling at some point that we kind of got stuck in this again chicken and egg discussion. So is it that we need very good business plans, so really developers, farmers sitting together, making a business plan, making it feasible from the commercial perspective, and then the regulation and policy would follow? Or is it they need actually the regulatory push? So which of the two? And to be honest, we have been talking about multi-use for the last 10 years. We have seen a lot of pilots. So I really wanted to see kind of some commitments happening over here for getting it to the next level, because technology readiness level is there, and we need to work now on the commercial. So I would say kind of the first action, and something that we clearly agreed upon, is the fact that it needs to be so concept of multi-use, combining, for some of you maybe haven't listened to any of our sessions, but really combining, for example, offshore wind and aquaculture, or allowing certain types of fisheries within offshore wind farms, or maybe having nature restoration within offshore wind farms. So having that clearly mapped in maritime spatial plans. So that would be really the first step. So mapping where the opportunities are, where what type of multi-use could fit from the functional, from the spatial perspective, from the environmental perspective, and so on. So having that clarity is kind of really the number one. Second, I would say, would be really the regulation and regulatory incentives. And by this, we mean even some countries have already implemented things such as non-financial, non-price tendering criteria, for example, nature restoration within offshore wind farms, or certain type of low trophic aquaculture within offshore wind farms. So really regulation that clearly supports certain type of multi-uses that can bring additional socioeconomic benefits based on a synergy. So really first mapping these, and then providing clear regulatory incentives, being through tendering or preferential fast-track permitting, whatever that is. So those are kind of the two things. The third thing would be organizing. So we keep saying we need more evidence, we need more pilots and so on, and the Commission is financing them. And these projects, it takes, for the research project, for the research pilot, it takes 2+ years to obtain, for the research project pilot, to obtain licenses, to obtain permits, to obtain insurance, if they're even willing to give it to us. And then you have maybe a year to implement it, to test, to bring the line up, to see if something is growing, and then you're done, the project is over, that's it, you have to bid for the next one. So we need really continuity if we want to have an evidence and be able on a longer term to measure the impacts, but not only to measure the impacts, but to work on commercialization, to work on these business plans that we say that we really need, because that takes time. So what is the solution? I hear different concepts. Mare parks, mare area, marine parks, multi-use parks. I think here in the picture now we have multi-use parks. So it is not only the developers, researchers, EU funds feeding into developing these business models and business plans and commercializing it. It's not only the regulation would sit back and relax. I think they need to sit together around this one table and really develop this multi-use park together, where permits would be maybe not in place, but it will be clear in what way the permits could be obtained, under what timeline, under what conditions, for what type of multi-uses, where insurance would be in place, because it's very difficult and very expensive to get the insurance, where risk assessments would be done, so there is more certainty for the developers to actually come in there and do their tests on a longer term, and then really collect impact assessments and so on. So I would say, so we said one, mapping it, second, the regulation to follow, financial support as well, but more for the long-term not pilots, I would say more demonstration parks, where we could get more evidence and really get it going on the commercial scale and scale it up. Probably I'm missing something, but those are kind of the key core takeaways, I would say. If I were with you in an elevator, that would be it.
Thanks, Ivana.
Thank you.
And I think when I see it from the voting, you have already presented them very nicely, almost in terms of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Therefore, I'm not so really surprised how the voting is going. Oh, God. What I'm missing, perhaps, Marco, who's behind the curtain, what we missed now is actually sort of these additional points you could also type in. So unless Marco is sort of doing the magic with the Slido, put them into the question and answer section, so that we have more, your opinion on what is still sort of then used. But I think the vote is pretty clear. We have simply 1, 2, 5. And with that, I think we move to the next topic, which is actually what was very often now also discussed. I think that was actually quite interesting for me, that multi-use is normally always sort of, seen as industry. And by the way, there was also a comment in the big picture, not Maria's big picture, but your big picture on your take-home messages. And what would you say? There was one comment, where was the industry? Here I would like to say that this is something which we experience in many of these blue conferences, that it's always requested, where's the industry? And I would actually really like to say that we tried with all our networks here really, really, really hard to get industry here, and I think we actually had quite a lot of industry. And I was, in your session, Ivana, in terms of the uptake of multi-use from industry, which I thought was quite interesting, this combination of industry or offshore wind, and that the major secondary use was seen as restoration. And with that, I would like to give the word to Ivana, who was leading so nicely the sessions which are dealing with marine pollution. How can we improve marine protected areas? How can we get more management plans which are operational in MPAs? I stop talking now so that you can have your word.
Thank you very much. These action points are mainly based on the session that was organized yesterday afternoon on the safeguarding biodiversity, but also following on the sessions such as marine monitoring, etc. So we really try to put everything together. the session, I just want to do a small introduction. So we talked about different topics and approach this marine protection or marine conservation topic from different points of view, starting from the MPA networks and their efficiency, what is the status and what is needed, talking about strictly protected areas, what are the barriers, what is needed, what are the challenges. Then we talked about actual integration of marine protection and maritime spatial planning and also other sectors, and then in the end involvement of all stakeholders and in particular local communities. And I must say that in all this session cross-cutting theme was actually this involvement of local communities and how really they should be involved in the entire process when we talk about marine protected areas. So from their designation, from the first steps, when you start talking about designated marine protected areas, to establishment, management, monitoring, etc. So what was also discussed is the ongoing projects, that there are many ongoing projects in the region which are actually supporting the improvements in marine protection and conservation. But somehow still in the discussion, in your inputs in Slido, there was a lot on really starting acting now, and maybe even starting with some smaller actions, especially when it comes to community involvement and let's say adequate involvement of local communities and all stakeholders, which means in a way that we communicate properly with them, we find more, let's say, easy ways to ensure that they are involved, such as going to the place where they live, or ensuring fundings for the involvement, etc. All these projects that we currently implement are actually really trying to integrate that and to look for these comprehensive solutions, but actually we should also start acting now and approach even with these smaller actions. Then we said that there are already many tools. So somehow some of you were asking, okay, but are we reinventing the wheel? We have already so many activities and tools and solutions that are provided. And actually that is a good question because the projects that we were at least presenting are taking all these existing solutions and trying to improve them and to make them usable and applicable and really demonstrate how those should be used by the end users. We talked about monitoring, about the existing technologies and what is really needed to be able first to have data to establish marine protected areas and especially strictly protected areas, but also in general what is needed to be able to monitor marine environment adequately. So, and another session was talking a lot actually about data and how much we have data or not have data, how much we collect them, are we aware of all data providers and data users. And actually Sweden is doing now this huge work on collecting all data requirements, trying to really put together all the marine related policies and make monitoring, answering all these requirements, or making it efficient, assigning roles. So I think that is a huge step that then can be replicated further. We talked about how much policies are coherent with marine biodiversity. So with maritime spatial planning, and this is following up well also on what was presented by my colleague on multi-use, but also in general other sectoral policies. So one of the solutions that we talked about is actually policy coherence. So to start from the policy coherence to be able to implement all those policies in a coherent way and also include everyone, combining bottom-up and top-down approaches. Now we are coming to the really involvement of everyone, and in particular local communities, so to empower them, as I say, in the entire process, from the establishment, management, monitoring, and really see what are some good practices. Some were mentioned already, but we should really look into that and try to upscale, replicate, transfer as much as possible, so to be able to say that, yeah, everyone was included in the process. We talked about MPA networks, their efficiency, and I think there was an agreement that a lot has been done on their establishment, but are they really efficient and functional? The answer was more no than yes. But good news is that there are ongoing processes, mainstreaming transnational cooperation in this region, and actually upscaling the existing solutions, such as the framework developed in Sweden, to really better connect marine protected areas and to ensure management plans, because unfortunately there are many paper parks still existing in Europe and in the region, which are without a proper management, without management plans, and those are essential documents and requisites to have efficient protection. And in the end, funding. Despite all the projects that we are mentioning, programs, etc., this was highlighted as one of the really important points. Also, when it comes to local communities engagement. So there should be specifically planned funds as part of this general plan on how to involve well everyone in these processes. So these were the most important ones. We really appreciate all the input, because it was a lot that we received during the session. But yeah, we are also open for your suggestions. Thank you very much.
Thanks, thanks Ivana, for this really good summary, which was, I think, really bringing action points in these sessions, which were quite different from the ones we had suggested before. You know, so I could see, in terms of the funding, for instance, for local actions, that this was really something which was not so strong in our first initial hypothesis in terms of action points. And if I can really see it correctly here now, is that this is exactly the first voted point to get sufficient funding for implementation of local actions, and that was also reflected not only in the session on marine protected areas, but actually also on the session when we were talking about funding and what should funders do, etc. So thanks. I think this is really interesting. So funding for local communities, start with something small. And now it's changing. So now we get mainstream biodiversity protection, international, regional MSPs. But perhaps it's also in terms of the synthesis of the variety of tools that this is not so important, because this is already done in the projects we are running. So I think this is now really showing the picture of what is necessary tomorrow. Okay, thanks a lot, Ivana. And with that, we are moving to whom? We are moving to products. Efthaya, you know, what were sort of the take-home messages from the variety of workshops we had in terms of the blue products here tomorrow? We had wonderful blue products here. So what is your take-home message? What do you think will be the actions necessary in order to really have sustainable blue products from this region?
Thank you. Yeah. Also, hi from us. We have been working a lot these days with immense teams of working on different product development. So we have very nice startups and SMEs being present. They were also pitching, but also they were having posters here, and we had the opportunity, I'm sure, to talk with. We have many projects at the moment right now in the region that they are focusing on different products, meaning algae, mussels, shrimp, fish, but also other ingredients. And the product developments that we see that there are now as first priority is first of all foods and food for the mass market. We had also very nice exhibitions yesterday, so you could taste it for yourself. I know all of these have actually very nice local products from the 4 countries. So we can see that there is a lot of much variety and taste enhancement, and there is a lot of potential for using it as the taste was so familiar to all of us. There is a culinary tradition in the region, so I can see it also as a potentially for future and exports. Feed is also definitely something we are working on, also from mussels. There is projects and entrepreneurs and endeavors trying to develop markets, but also create a supply chain needed for having feed for pet food, like good dog or cats or ornamental fish, but also feed like chicken, not only from mussels though, we can have also algae, micro and macro algae. There are ongoing projects, so we can see within the 5 years time that we can have projects like that, products in the market, more products in the market, and also cosmetics, that there are already algae-based cosmetics, and we can see there is a lot of interest from the local consumers to have more green, more healthy, marine-based also, especially vegan and vegetarian markets. So for sure this in the 5 next years, but also we have in the next 5 to 10 years we can see also more complicated products coming in, like nutraceuticals or biostimulants, more bioactive, so to say, and opening the doors for more complicated added value products that have more long line to go to the market, longer timeline to go to the market. So yeah, upon that we can think also looking at advanced, alternative, non-traditionally used marine resources. This is upcoming now. So we have seen that we have used projects using non-conventional food products from non-conventional fish or other blue biomasses. So we have seen also opportunities for using side streams or seagrass or fish that is not usually edible, non-quota fish or bycatch or so. Yeah, so these are the, there is a lot of potential, there is some biodiversity here that's supporting this. So to start with, so we have 8 comments and I will be fast here. So first of all, we would like, and based on our knowledge from our Submarine Accelerator and the previous Baltic Blue Biotechnology Alliance, but also through discussions we have and the projects we have at the moment, and with you, discussion with all of you in the workshops, we need accelerating product developments of new medium and high value, especially high value product markets, and bioprospecting programs for new ingredients, bioactives, and this is for the 5 and 10 years. And also products that are more close to the market. So we expect to have like 30 companies being mentored in the future. So we would like to support and encourage you all to stay close. But we would like to have also more seed funding opportunities to create more the critical mass of producers, and also linking with product developers, also to reach the market and also reach all of you as consumers. We are all consumers in the end of the day. Develop new products and alternative local from alternative local biomass, as I said. So we use also bycatch or species like seagrass or sea stars or sea cucumbers. All this is very interesting alternative biomass for getting structures, getting functionalities, texturizers or protein sources, bioactive and so on. And don't to forget the processing side streams. We are expecting a big disruption coming from the circulating side streams and nutrients, especially in carbon. So we would like to, we will see more products coming in that they are coming from with side streams. So not to forget, create incentives for producing more circular products, and this is where I'm going now. We have to have the structures, we have to have also the schemes that are allowing for allowing products coming from circular nutrients, circulated nutrients or side streams to come to the market, even though they are not perfect, like what we have seen with the plastic bag and the recycling plastics. We should have parallel schemes also for other circular side stream products, side stream based produced products. So we would like to see that, and I expect we'll have also some developments on this side. We need standardization though, so we cannot just happen like that. Circulating side stream nutrients, for example, or carbon, that's complicated for the industry. They are not easy to you said that they aren't easy to take up, and it's more adding a risk to your line of business. So we need to make standardization processes and products to allow to have the possibility to use circular nutrients, for example.
There are already votes, and there are many more people coming, so if you can just speed up.
Okay. Then I have developed streamlined, robust impact assessment tools. So we have talked about ecosystem services as products, but to be able to create opportunities for the end of market and circular economy, we need to understand a bit how the accountability of circularity and sustainability works. So we need to have more opportunities to assess how good or bad a performance of a production line is, in order to be able to internalize the environmental costs and externalities we have, in order to look at the biodiversity effects, ecosystem services, and then create new business plans and business models to improve and develop more circular economy. And this is for the algae, this is for the fish and the wrasse, for all kinds of blue material that we have here. There is supply chain and increased visibility of biomass suppliers, so we need to have more mapping to create opportunities for all of you. Replace the feed imports, that is a big need for all Europe, but also here that we have producing so many, also pig and in this line of business. We need to have also fish, we need to have more locally produced feeds. And then the last one I have is some requests from you, like to have a reestablishment of what kind of fish we are producing in order to have more demand for fish oil and fish meals, for example, or using waters and so on.
Thanks, Eftaria. I think while you were talking, we actually already got, quite clear voting in here.
Yes. Great.
There are also questions on the Q&A, in particular to the point 8, in terms of stressing, at least one parliamentarian here stresses the point that we should really stress local caught fish, local species. But since this point 8 was also the lowest ranked now in this assembly, I think we can take this question lightly. So thanks, Eftaria. And with that, I would like to move to the next very important theme we were running, which was, okay, on one hand, we had looked into what are the future products, what do we want to convey, what do we want to sort of promote, but then the question is, of course, also, how do we promote businesses? What are the actions needed in order to get either biomass production or also product production here in the region? Sonja, floor is yours.
You're doing amazing, Angela, that voice. I'm telling you, that's a tough one. So I was able to attend quite a few sessions relating to the business support. How are we going to support all these businesses in producing blue products? I didn't attend all sessions, but I was able to get some great notes from those who did. And there's some action points that we came out with from the sessions that I'm going to tell you about and try to provide a bit more information. Supporting businesses, I think we all know that improving policy frameworks, and especially for aquaculture farmers, we all know in that sector there are some challenges. regulatory and otherwise. So actually improving policy frameworks to be on level with perhaps traditional food and biotech sectors was one thing that was discussed. And I call it fast tracking, and not with a negative way, because in some way the approval processes, and I can speak from being in Sweden, that they are a little bit too complicated for what the purpose actually is. And so, yeah, we need to streamline, we need to improve processes if we really want these biomass producers to have a chance. So that was one of the major discussions, I think, that came up in several of the sessions. Another one was, of course, and this was maybe more for the mussel growing operators or the aquaculture workers, because addressing incentives and disincentives between agriculture and aquaculture. There is some crossover, as we know, in the agriculture sector. There is a lot of nutrient load that the aquaculture sector is, of course, having to face with this nutrient loading, and it can be a positive, but it can also be negative. And we did have a discussion, I wasn't part of it, but one of the mussel growers, of course, talking about the risk of contamination. And if they're going to be trying to, in aquaculture sectors, use innovative approaches for these marine resources, well, there needs to be some kind of sense of that this is actually a safe zone, and also that even if there are contaminants, we need to work together with maybe other sectors to ensure that the public perception of these waters and nutrients are actually put in the right perspective, so that we don't lose any maybe attraction on the market for those types of products. The third action point that came up, and this was something I also was part of, and there's so much to talk about supporting collaboration and co-creation. All of us in the room here, we've been a part of the most amazing co-creation ever this entire 3 days, just so we can check that off. But we do need to completely go back to our regions and help to make sure that this collaboration, co-creation continues between academia, startups, and private sector. But also that support is provided for the systems, the actors, and even the platforms. We all have seen a great platform, a couple of platforms, Blue Biomatch, Sargasso. These need to also be supported and continue so they don't die out. We've generated them in projects. They need financing to maintain a lifespan, basically. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Okay, and yeah, increasing, and sorry, just one more thing about the co-creation between companies. There was the comment, of course, where are the industry actors? But I think we need to recognize that everyone in the room here actually represents a group of industry actors. We're all representing stakeholders. So we've actually been in the meetings with our industry sort of hat on. So that's something that I hope we can continue to use. Okay, the next, and this actually goes in line, very much in line with many of the other sessions regarding the number and access to test and demonstration sites. So we do see, in order to support these blue companies, we're going to need to give them both access, but also spread out, so I don't have to travel all the way to Iceland to test my technology. I can maybe do it closer to another area. And this is not only on sea, but also on land. Obviously our RAS and the future farming of fish on land, etc., those ones need to also find more test and demonstration opportunities. And they need to be affordable, and of course this will help to accelerate and upscale many of these blue product developments. So that was a really big discussion that came up in several sessions. Another one came up in several sessions, and I think it links actually a lot with the community and getting communities involved. There was a discussion about how do we actually get more outreach advisory services. And there's so many levels of kind of education that need to be approached here. We know at each of the regional levels, at the municipal level, there's someone sitting behind a desk trying to approve or, you know, read all these applications. They need education and support in knowing, should I approve this, should I not approve this? We know that, of course, out in local communities, schools, we've talked a lot about schools being involved more, about how the young generation of both the seafood eaters, but also seafood workers and other innovation generators in the seafood industry or in the blue economy. So there needs to be more established maybe services and programs, education programs that can really provide direct support and help those communities who want to explore more opportunities for developing their own local and circular blue bio-based value chains. And of course, information about financing, because nobody can do this without maybe some extra inputs. And last, there was a lot, again, kind of, or last on this, number 6. We need to really foster and support awareness. So all of the support actors for business need to be helping to really get the word out about this sector. We need to build knowledge about it. We need to encourage community engagement. We've talked about citizen science in other sessions parallel. And we really need to build skills so that we can actually support eventually these new local business models, and actually that can generate some major values for the community. Of course, money was always a discussion, probably in every room, and we do need to see, in order to support business, that we need to de-risk and incentivize investments through new perhaps public funding instruments, and of course public-private partnership, which is so crucial. But also ensuring that whatever financial tools are available, they're actually, you can see them throughout the value chain so that you can actually support all levels of development, from research to implementation. I think this maybe came up in other sessions about where do we see a lot of the funding. It's not always at the implementation level, and maybe we need to balance out where money is placed. That came up in other sessions, I know. And then, yeah, one of the major things that came up in many parallel sessions was the idea of visibility of our value generation. When we're talking about what these value chains in the blue economy can actually generate, and we need to support and the adoption of innovative approaches. And this could be in fish processing, but we need to show what kind of value generation. One of the great workshops we were in, we actually were testing a tool to actually structure up discussions around value chain and value generation. So I think this is going to be a tool that we can also see spreading in the blue economy communities here. Yeah, and diversifying revenues for both existing and new businesses. This isn't all just about new businesses. We have a lot of traditional existing businesses that just need help to maybe tweak their ideas or to, you know, show visibility. You can gain value in this sector if you just look at it from a different perspective. So there was a great, and I think from the business workshops and sessions, there were actually a lot of tools, and I hope you all take them with you afterwards.
Thanks, thanks, Sonja. I think, yeah, one can see from the votes that the order has really changed while you were talking, and I think it was quite interesting. I mean, you know, of course, the first one in terms of the regulatory framework, that's something I think almost comes up in every single Blue Forum. But I think what is interesting and also inspiring in terms of taking action tomorrow is that the second and the third voted are really about establishing these outreach advisory services so that we actually talk, perhaps not only us, but I mean others, that there is more people around who can actually really bring it to the municipalities and explain what are the possibilities, etc., and do it in a language where I thought it was quite interesting during our workshops that even for people like us who are in the business, that it was not so easy to define the value chain of microalgae because, you know, if you're not coming from that sector, the vocabulary is not so easy. So I wonder how you want to convey this to municipalities, but that's actually, I think, what we also require. So thanks also here for your votes. And with that, we are moving forward to skills, because I think that fits also quite nicely. Tikla, I stopped talking. Skills.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I think it really, is it still on? Yeah, okay. I think it really fits into a lot of the points which were already touched onto. It is mainly recapped from one specific session which was based on skills, but I know that in pretty much all sessions there was talked about this, because I mean, skills and staff and people who can do what we want to do really is at the core of this. So this was probably touched pretty much everywhere. So we tried to come up with as well 8 action points to address, and they are mainly focused on really near future, so really something we can start right now and not have to wait for regulatory parts or something. There was a lot of really good input from pretty much not all, but many of the stakeholders involved when we talk about the availability of skills, of people, of education. There were pupils, there were students, teachers, but also projects like the EU for Aldi project or the Blue Ref, and also input from Business Accelerator. I would just quickly, and I will try to be short, run through the action points and give you a little bit of an input about them. So first one is really integrate people into current research projects to spark an interest and therefore pave a way into careers in blue bioeconomy sector. And this is something was really clear when talking to the students and to the pupils. This shapes their interest, and this made them now really interested in going towards blue bioeconomy as their further career path. So this is something, I think there's a lot of value in it. And yeah, so also it's at the same time it can really develop within these young people scientific thinking. So finding out what actually replicates are and stuff like this, which is very interesting for them. Interdisciplinary thinking, of course, and it also can get them an access to a network where they can attach to and then obviously possibly choose a career path towards that direction. The second point is develop and also constantly reevaluate teaching materials which are up to date, suitable for the classrooms and easily adaptable by the teaching staff. They have to be co-created by research industry and the schools because, for example, the teaching side might lack an insight into the topic area, while the research might really lack an insight into what's possible in classrooms and what fits in into the curriculum. So it also needs to involve younger, especially younger scientists, like for example PhDs, to do these, to make these classes, because we do have less of an age gap there, and there is obviously more relation in between pupils and then not a professor. So the third one is create dedicated vocational and lifelong learning training programs for to up and also reskill workers to exploit opportunities in the blue bioeconomy sector. So really putting also more focus on the vocational training. There was a lot of talk about academia, but not all who end up in this staff that is needed will be coming from academia. So really also putting a focus onto the vocational education in that career path. And then the other thing, which was I think also in other sessions talked about, really trying to reskill workers to create that more stuff that is needed from other sectors, for example, fisheries, because there are often quite compatible core skills already existing, so you can use them. And this obviously then increases the staff availability in the blue sector. Then the fourth point is update the KPIs of universities to include more innovation, tech transfer and entrepreneurship support factors. This really means to make it easier for future staff to move from academia later on to the private sector. And it obviously opens possibilities. It opens the understanding within scientific staff to see where their findings might add value in the industry. And also, this basically plants the seed of transfer to the industry. Then the fifth one, joint effort by research, universities and innovation clusters as agents of innovation to encourage collaboration with the private sector. So really involving all these partners. For example, this can also be used especially for testing applications from the industry, which are not yet really ready, but really using the research part to test smaller ideas. Like, for example, in algae cultivation, there are obviously often quite small hurdles to overcome. And a better interaction can also solve, we heard a lot about missing small-scale production places, and it can also maybe help here to get a place where testing is possible. And also, this would support the matchmaking, especially to foster further innovation, and we heard this already at the beginning in regards to our picture. Number 6, Number 6 builds direct collaborations in between academia and industry, for example, via internships or project-based classes, but there's obviously more possibilities there. We really heard and saw in the sessions about the value of internships and such project-based classes, especially when it comes about the decision which way to go in the future career path. And we also had more than one call to the industry to really reach out to schools and universities, and also other industries are doing this, so maybe that's really something we should be aware about. If oil industry goes there, maybe we should go there first. And the 7th, invest in innovative supporting clusters which pool resources, as for example skills, to make them accessible to new blue startups. This is not only new and developed skills, but also already pre-existing skills, really to pool them as a platform in a cluster and make them available. So basically using them more effectively. And 8 is abolish the gender gap, including increase in opportunities for women to be at management roles. We have a gender equation gap. There is a lead for leading staff, especially, we heard this, especially in areas or regions which are a little bit more remote. And yeah, by doing this, we can increase the staff availability. And yeah, with this, I will give it to you.
Thanks, Tekla. And while you were talking, we again saw there were quite a lot of changes in the listing. So definitely the vocational and lifelong training has got the highest mark. I think we have seen, at least I, sort of what was quite new for me here was that, okay, there's of course a lot of stress on the young ones, but we have seen a lot of examples that the silver-haired people are equally important in order to make this change happening. And even in the last session, I heard that the silver-haired ones, I will not now go into detail at what certain age, you know, apparently people are starting to eat more seaweed and be sort of more creative, which I thought was quite interesting. So it's the young ones and the old ones are interested. The middle-aged ones are the problematic ones. So Thanks a lot for that. I think in terms of the gender gap, I think that may also, the low level here that this got may have something to do with the group which is around here. I myself was invited to a Blue Woman meeting, etc. We have, I think, in our office more the problem to get interested men than women. But you know, at this Blue Women meeting, that was really about the shipping industry, about the offshore wind industry, etc., where we have, I think, a bit of a different situation than in the blue bioeconomy, etc. Okay, but having, you know, from skills very obvious to move to citizen engagement. And Matthias, I think the voting, by the way, be aware that the voting is always already going on, so you don't have to go into every single detail. But I'm particularly interested here also because there was a session ongoing which we didn't see because it was on the other side of the city at the Universium, and of course one could not join all the single workshops, but from those who have come back, they're very much inspired with what was happening there. So Matthias, your take on in terms of your action points and your lobbying for the action points.
Yes, thank you, Angela. Yeah, it's actually very nice to both here and at the Universium have these activities, and it's nice to talk about citizen engagement with professionals, but also with the citizens themselves, and really learn about what they think might be needed to change, or how they will want to get informed, for example. It's actually very nice to see also that during the different sessions that were already summarized, that citizen engagement was also often a discussion point during these sessions. And what I like about it, that is that it's no longer seen, I guess, as a separate thing, but it's already, interacted or connected with all the different topics, and it doesn't stand alone, actually. So that's really nice to see. Regarding the sessions that we had here, during multiple sessions actually, there were often the same ideas, which is also nice actually. So one thing that stood out the most and was several times an example actually is that we want to create and strengthen the interaction and the dialogue with citizens and researchers, policymakers, and so on. And it was always said that we should do it locally. To really get the citizens involved and get their interest, amaze them, inspire them, we should act locally, because then it becomes relevant for them. And if we want to bring these mission objectives to the citizens, we should therefore look at what is really playing in these smaller areas, and instead of trying to reach them all at once. So citizens are actually more concerned of what is really happening in their backyard, not what is happening 200 miles or 200 kilometers away from their home. So that was one main thing, I guess. And then another thing that was also mentioned quite often is that to make this bridge between citizens and professionals, let's say, we need to make sure that we understand each other. So we need to speak the same language. And there's always a two-directional message. It's not, we need to be careful that it's not always coming from professionals towards citizens, but also listen to what they want, what they're saying. So it's two-directional, and therefore you should have like a common language or like a platform where you can exchange this information. And that's really something that we should think about, and that we also should tackle actually locally as well. And together with this, when you try to engage citizens, it's not only trying to interact with them and bring a message, one directional or two directional, but also think about the tools that are necessary to to set this framework and to really make these actions work, because otherwise, when the infrastructure, for example, isn't there, and some measures or so are set, and you want to engage citizens with it, make sure that the tools are there and that they understand the tools and that they understand the message, so that they can really change that behavior as well. And together with this common language, as it is not one direction, it's both directions that it goes. It should actually be more than when we approach students and teachers, for example, and when we think about ocean literacy, it's not only making sure that students, that there is enough ocean literacy. Another thing could also be to like have a back-to-school program where experts and professionals go back to school and really are put in front of a class and learn how to speak and how to get them engaged, how to inform them, how they think. And that's also something that popped up during these sessions. So besides citizen engagement, I just also talked about ocean literacy actually. So there are also things going on there. And what I would like to mention is that it's also with the skills that was also already touched upon, is that students want to be involved, as I understood, more actively and more project-based, so that they can get those interdisciplinary skills and knowledge, and that they really see how the blue economy works, because it's a complex world. So that was really inspiring, I guess. It also gives them the opportunity to develop their own skills. Another thing, there's two more things actually. So as you already mentioned, we had several activities at the Universium with small children and students, pupils, and they were very, very involved. They were very happy to do it. It's a nice thing to do, so please just also think about doing small, it's a small effort actually. Think about doing it locally in your neighborhood as well. It's really worth it. And then one final thing, this morning there was also a workshop on European Blue Schools, and the session actually ended with a nice quote from Pierre from the EU for Ocean Coalition, and it was about ocean literacy and the terminology. Maybe we should also think about changing it to blue literacy, because it's not only, often we think marine and our ocean, but it's more than that. It's all connected. So if we think about our blue literacy, we can also involve more and involve and interest more people also inland. So yeah.
Thanks, thanks, Matthias. I would actually have so much to comment on, but I'm a bit handicapped to comment a lot. But I think it is something which really was a recurring theme coming up, and I think it's also nicely reflected in Maria's picture, that this empower people to act. How to do that? By actually having really almost agents, advisors, etc., to go to local communities, to actually also go to municipalities, but then actually to speak also in their language, etc. So we have captured this in different themes, but I think that this has come up all and all over again. And with that, I would actually also like to give the word to Karine, because it was actually also a topic in the funding workshop. So let's see what now, that's of course you're the final one in terms of governance, funding, what are expectations. So let's see, what were the actions which were discussed in this arena?
Yeah, thank you, Angela. And it was quite clever to put my report at the end, in fact, but I don't hope that the audience is expecting a kind of one-fits-all solution, because yeah, there is no one. And of course, you asked me to present more than 3 actions due to the Slido vote. Yes, it was very interesting to listen. All of the presenters here had interesting ideas, just experience in their workshops, and I have the impression that every single workshop could be seen as a kind of puzzle, as a kind of part of a puzzle, and that also our workshops on governance and funding opportunities fits quite good in this whole picture, in this whole puzzle. Yes, as soon as, from my experience, it was the first time that so many different funders, private funders, public funders, and actors are discussing this issue in one workshop. So it was a very good start and a good initiative to organize this workshop. And there were some main findings out of the workshop, also ending up in this action points. The first is that there was a wish from the grantees actually to have a closer communication with funders, and because sometimes they have the feeling that the granting frameworks have to be softer and be more like package deals, so sort of developed or designed, just to avoid projects are only partially funded. And of course, a longer horizon, funding horizon, and more core funding would be beneficial for many grantees, so to say. And furthermore, we need projects including the whole value chain. So that means from research and development to implementation and upscaling, including all kind of actors, and so transnational, so to say, or transdisciplinary, and in order to achieve a real transformation, also in conservation, on restoration, nature restoration projects. But the question was, is it the responsibility of the grantees or the funding design? So this question was not solved. And yeah, the funders are sometimes not aware of past current or ending up projects, and other funders that could be need additional funding just in order to achieve more or manage the results, because there is until now no common database. There's no database where a potential applicant can just look for the funding opportunities they would need, especially in the BANOS region, or for the mission objectives, so to say. And therefore, the idea was to implement, to set up a kind of database, and we are doing it in the Blue Mission BANOS project. And this is one of the action points also. Can you see the action points already? Yeah. So, and we had formulated 3 action points out of the funders workshops, The first is we would like to establish a pilot roundtable of funders, public and private ones. Let's see how it works and if it works, just in order to discuss approaches to fund concrete mission-relevant actions, for example, marine litter, aquaculture and ocean generation, because this is very important that we define concrete topics to discuss it with several funders. Second action point is to consult and contribute to the Mission BANOS database, as I said already. And the third action point is to unlock funding across the entire value chain. I also mentioned this point as one of the main outcomes out of the funders workshop. Now I would like to switch to the governance workshop. It was very interesting too, because it was also the first time that we organized such a workshop within the Blue Mission BANOS project. And the main question, what we tried to solve or what we discussed was what is needed to successfully implement the Mission Ocean. And we did it in a way, we set up, or we used a methodology called mental mind mapping, so to say, or we used this method in order to enable an open discussion. We don't want it to give any points to the participants in advance, but we wanted to have a very, very open discussion. And the main outcomes were probably a bit fluffy, but of course we would like to continue the discussion. But one main point was, and I thought it was very interesting, that some of the people said the mission could be seen or is an experiment, and it catalyzes action towards the mission objectives. It is not the term mission that is important, but to reach the mission goals is key, and this is also what we heard of you today, of course. And we must
have to speed up.
Yeah. 5 points. And we have to make it sure that anybody is working on the same direction. Second point, we need to build on existing structures. And in the workshop we said that we should learn from the success stories like established structures like HELCOM and OSPA. And so we could use those structures to have, and then thinking about develop them further. Third point is we need more or better knowledge transfer and communication. So we agreed that most of the scientific knowledge we need to fulfill the mission objectives is there, but we should try to make more use out of it. And by incorporating all actors from politics, science, industry and society, and we need to find regional specific solutions and to start to test new approaches like the Living Lab approach, for example. And we need flexible, adaptive governance structures, and we would serve as a good framework to foster the innovation in the BANOS region. And last point, no single organization is able to handle the challenges we are facing with the mission, and therefore that's the reason why collaboration on horizontal and vertical level is needed. That means that as well intergovernmental collaboration, as well as transdisciplinary and transsectoral collaboration is needed. And the missions, all missions, have to be from national level to authorities and all the way down to the municipality level. They have to work together. And one successful example of the Mission Ocean could be implemented on, was mentioned, for example, by the Danish representatives. They already established a mission hub, they have a mission ocean manager, and that's probably what we could also learn from each other in the region. We could try to find out best case scenarios, so to say, and we have to stay in contact and collaborate. So that was
Thanks, Corinne. And I think the voting is again quite interesting in that we got a high vote for one action defined in the funding workshop and another one which came more from the governance side and actually reconfirms the red thread here also in terms of not only going local but actually also looking into implementation, perhaps not only looking into the next innovative project, but actually to also allow funding for simply things which have worked in projects before and to turn them into implementation. While the other one, if I see that correctly, is again sort of about the region-specific solution, I think a red thread. So with this, I have to sort of throw you down from the stage because we have yet another panel coming up. A round of applause. For our rapporteurs. I know you see how tedious it is to be a politician and to sit in long, winding sort of meetings where, however, a lot of important points are to be discussed. And I think your voting was extremely important because we will actually convey to those who had said they are interested to learn more about what was happening in the arena here, of course, the most important points you were voting for. With that, I would like to welcome to the stage now the representatives from the Commission, Johan from SWARM. Where are you all? From Annette from Business Lolland Falster. Can you please come up here in order to have the final round now? Claudia. Anders, where are you? Ah, good. Thanks for coming close so that I don't have to shout. Okay. So with this panel, we actually, you have now really the difficult task because it's just sort of before the leave. But I mean, we wanted to close the cycle. We had, in the opening, we had sort of representatives from Sweden, your mission manager saying, you're really interested in what will happen at the arena. So now the arena #1 has happened, and of course we would like to get a little bit of feedback from your side in terms of also the action points, the workshops, etc. What are sort of take-home messages from you? And we have tried now here also to represent different actors which are necessary, from NGOs, from the region, from the business clusters, from the Commission, and of course, last but not least, also from maritime spatial planning. So my first question is a general one, and perhaps pass very quickly the microphone in terms of all of you are continuously at blue conferences, etc. Was there anything here in the arena where you were saying, okay, that's actually something new I got from this arena. This is something which I will take home. What did you find interesting, either process-wise or content-wise, in this arena, and also from what you have heard from your colleagues? Because I know, Johan, that Joachim, that of course you were not here all the time, but I mean your colleagues from SWARM and VASAP and all our maritime spatial planning authorities were here, so perhaps you have also heard something. Can we start perhaps with you, or you have it now, Bodhi, but I mean we start here. So first of all, Martin from DG Mare, from the Commission, working on the Mission Ocean. You were here all the time, so what was your take-home message?
Well, I was here all the time. It was a very intense period and massively parallel, so I think nobody could take in more than 25% at any rate. And the intensiveness of the event, I think the fact that our chair has lost her voice is a result of that, but I think on the whole it was a good result. So sorry about your voice, but the end result is good. I don't really go to blue conferences that much, so I cannot perhaps answer that very well. I did enjoy the different workshops and the large variety of things, of themes that were touched upon. The discussions upon the governance especially were very interesting and very nice. And okay, we're in a hurry, so I pass them.
Yeah. Claudia, you are now from DG RTD side in terms of the mission, which is always also interesting in terms of the governance of the mission in Brussels. Very happy that you were here, also physically. I think
Thank you.
notice now
Angela.
why we said online will be difficult.
Yes, Angela, thank you, and thank you to all of you. Because I have been in other blue economy conferences, because as you may know, DGRTD managed the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership, so I'm quite familiar. But for me, it was the first time that I could have the possibility to engage with important discussion with all of you. And when I will go home to my hierarchy, what I could say is definitely pro and cons. But there is something that really touched me during these 3 intensive days, and that is your engagement, active engagement and willingness to make things happen where you work, where you live, and to think about the next generation. There were many points tackled. What I could say is that indeed there were people who say, yeah, but you know, there are different initiatives, and now the Commission came out with this mission, Ocean, we've done other missions, so many things. It's true, many things, but it's also true that while I was listening to all of your discussion and inputs, it's very true that the mission Ocean can guide and combine all these policy orientation as well as existing infrastructure. It is true that we need research. We need research to test and deploy innovative solutions at a local level, but it is not enough. And I do agree with all of you that said research is not enough. It's needed, it's much needed, but we need also education. We need to bring science close to society. So citizen engagement is important. Education to equip our future generation with the blue skill. These are important things. As well, and I'm glad, I'm happy to see that we are on the same page, is that we need political buy-in. So at the European Commission, we can go through, member state and try to get this political buy-in, and you were with us in Hamburg to try to do so, and indeed we succeed. But we need also regions, we need municipality. This Danish hub, it's a very good success story, but there are others that I heard this morning, and I do not dare to pronounce the name of the city in Swedish, but it was a good example. So it's true that we need the cities, regions together, but how? That's a problem for us. For European Commission, how to get with the cities at a local level. We can do it if we have you, and you, through your coordinated support action, if you could bring it together and engage with the cities. So let's work together and join efforts.
Yeah. Thanks, Claudia. And we are coming back to that also perhaps in the second round. Now to you, Joachim. You are in many Blue conferences, I know. There's this regular MSP forum, etc. What did you find here different from the classical MSP conferences we have attendance very often?
Yes, I'm in a way representing the Baltic Sea region, as I'm working with this Helcom Vasa working group. I also have a Swedish hat working with the marine special planning, meaning elaborating plans. So I do both like policy and practical things. But I would say that, of course, this conference has a research innovation focus, and that's a little bit slightly different from the MSP conferences, and that's very nice and interesting. And I think it has been very inspirational to be here, because here you actually meet the, how can you say, the kind of end users of the marine special planning, the ones that will actually hopefully benefit from the planning. And it's also clear for me that, the themes, I've heard about themes many times and for many years, but it feels like, at least in some respects, things are really taking off now. Things are really happening in the real world. And this offshore wind deployment is, it's a threat, but it's also a huge opportunity, meaning that MSP is strengthened, and through MSP you can also have a tool for for all the other themes like aquaculture and so on. So I think there's something. Well, we are at a cross point. I mean, it's taking off really now, I think.
Thanks, Joachim. And with that, I would like to move on to Annette from Business Lolland Falster from Denmark. We have seen many action points on what is necessary, what regions for business clusters should do. How, when you come home, what are the action points we have put in here? Do you find them realistic? Can you do so, etc.?
I think there was a lot of interesting points amongst them action points up there. I'd like to say first, I don't do a lot of conferences either, but I thought it was really, really nice to meet so many hands-on people who actually do projects. They might not be very big, a lot of them, but they're actually creating something. It's far beyond research, because there's a long way from research and until the businesses we're dealing with in our region. I thought that was very nice. What I will take home is probably that, yes, we have room to think big, and we want to think big, but we probably need to start small, and we need to mobilize a lot of public support for what we're doing and make seafood sexy before we can think as big as we would like to do.
Thanks. And then the microphone is now moving to Anders Karlberg, because we actually have somehow seen each other before, because you were very active in maritime affairs. You were the one who were, I don't know whether you were in charge, but I mean, you were definitely behind designing the maritime strategy here of the region in Västra Götaland in 2008.
Yes,
Yesterday
that's
I
right.
got a postcard with issues which were actually prepared in 2004, which were still sort of true. Anders, from the time you were involved in the in designing that strategy, now what is the maths behind it? But I mean, 15 years later,
yes.
What do you see now here emerging?
I think that many of the issues are similar, and we're still dealing with this conflict over different interests in a very productive and also vulnerable zone of our territory. So that's not much different. But what we've seen that have emerged, and I would like to catch on maybe with what Joachim was saying, the deployment of offshore wind and of wind power at sea has really become a very urgent issue, not just for the sea, but for our societies, basically. And therefore, I think the voice of what we represent here, NGOs, civil society, special interests, research, education, to involve ourselves in that is very important, because we need this offshore wind, and we need it very, very, very badly. So we have to sort of navigate between the conflicts that we will surely find in deploying it, but we have to come out on the other end with some really important production of safe and green energy. So that's, I think, an important thing that I've developed in these years. Also, I'm of course very happy with the format of this conference, the fact that it's been so interactive. It hasn't been sort of inviting you to look at your personal screens, but you've been involving yourselves in dialogue also within the workshops, which is wonderful and very important. And thirdly, I'm so happy, of course, that so many people from this sector, from the blue sector, have come to Gothenburg, where we have assembled many times over the years. But this is a place where you find a lot of municipalities that are really, you know, engaged. We're talking about municipalities here that are bleeding over social services, education, infrastructure, lots of things that are kind of their heart activities. But they also have energy and resources left over for the development of a sustainable maritime economy and sustainable maritime environment. And that's, I think, something really to applaud. And I'm thinking of, the ones that I know very well, from Öckerö in the south to Strömstad in the north. So that's wonderful.
Thanks. And Borrell, you are now the last one. We have talked, you had a lot of action points where I think you felt, oh yeah, that's us, working with local community, being an NGO. What was, in terms of this arena, are you very often at conferences, or what was your take home from the arena? What was sort of for you interesting here?
Thank you. So first of all, thank you for a great effort putting this together. Coming from an NGO, I'm very much usually boots on the ground, so this is not my natural habitat. I am, though, very happy to see that our point of community engagement has been present through pretty much all the workshops I've been to, and all the action points, all the themes that were represented today had community engagement as a very important part of it, which is something that in our opinion is not just important but needed for these initiatives to reach success. So that's really a pleasant surprise for me to see that. Also, I appreciate that there was a lot of focus on more trial and error, more getting stuff done. There is a lot of talking, a lot of road mapping, a lot of talking about stakeholders, but luckily also a lot of talk about getting out there, trying stuff in small scale, doing trial and error, and get working, get doing, because I think that's very much what we need at the moment.
Okay, and since time is running very fast, and I'm sorry that I kept you waiting for so long, but I mean now I would like to have sort of, and you don't have to do it in this row, you can do whoever wants to do it spontaneously first. I would like to get a piece of advice from you, from all of you, in terms of what we should do now. I mean, now we have this arena, but there were some people out who could not come. So what would you expect from us as the coordination and support action to support you to get the messages across from this arena? Claudia, you are the first, perhaps.
Thanks. There is so great enthusiasm that my piece of advice is to keep it on, to make things happen now, to gather with the stakeholders, and taking from all the points that have been raised, a couple of actions that you could implement through your coordinated support action. Continue to help us in gathering all these examples through the mission charter, which is a way to gather all these initiatives and then create a matchmaking to see, well, we have this technology, and we have philanthropy that could be interested. So through the charter we can see this list of services. Because indeed we need research, we need the funds, and we have this through the European Commission, but we need also additional funds through, for instance, philanthropy, that this came through the discussion today.
Okay, thanks. And Martin?
Yeah, to say probably much the same thing in perhaps different words, but since we're from the same institution and the same mission secretariat, I think as we said at one of at the governance workshop yesterday, most of the mission is not really new. The objectives are not new. Most of the instruments are not new. The thing that is new is this ambition to be federating actions in people and institutions at a local and regional level. And we have some mechanisms for this, which is the charter actions and the associated regions. And but what we expect from you, the coordination and support action for Blue Mission BANOS and all the other CSAs in the other regions, is to help here, is to coordinate and support and really blow the thing up, which you're doing. So yes, continue along this way. But this is the main, this is what we want, actually. It's this federating of people, institutions, and money, which is always a good thing to have around here.
Thanks. I mean, I have to say, I don't know, there will be an arena number 2, and we are already sort of now gathering sort of suggestions on what can be done differently. I think one also has to be aware that even though we are a CSA, a coordination and support action, that we can only as often as we can sort of arrange these kind of arenas, of course. This was here now a collaborative action financed really from very different projects, I also have to say. So I think that was, for me, very important. But Joachim.
No, I was just saying that, I mean, we've had this meeting for 3 days, about 500 people. That's quite a lot. So I think everyone should really be encouraged to make use of what have been done here and all the meetings you've had, and really continue to meet and discuss with the people you have met here. I know you will, but it's always good to be reminded about that. I mean, just continue the meeting, I mean, afterwards, so to speak.
Just a little request. Please invite some more policymakers next time, because they appear to be missing everywhere.
Please, I mean, we invited them, but, you know, help us all to get them. It's always the same. It's very difficult.
I hope this meeting can be an inspiration for us who go home to our regions, our municipalities, to arrange similar setups, but locally and regionally, to bring together lots of people from different organizations who are perhaps even more hands-on when it comes to dealing with maritime sustainable development. I think that would be a good inspiration.
What is your advice to us? In terms of conveying the messages also from this arena.
I think meetings are great, but in the end, give the money to people who are out there doing stuff. We can talk and research, and we should, but maybe one meeting a year is enough, and the funds can go on the ground instead.
Okay, thanks, and sorry, I mean, there you say continue talking. What I can say is that, yes, we can continue talking because there's coffee waiting for us outside. So please feel all invited to actually even stay on. Some even have now project partner meetings. And so first of all, a round of applause also for our final panel. And we had now this last poll, what could we do better for arena number 2? And we are very happy to take constructive criticism and always improving. I mean, I said it at the opening. You were our guinea pigs. You were arena number 1. And I think yesterday there was also during the funding workshop, somebody saying, you know, we don't necessarily have to do everything new, but we simply have to improve what we are doing. And this is, I think, all our ambition also as a CSA. But I don't want to forget one thing. I know that you're all waiting for the coffee, but I think that all the people who were the organizers of the workshops, who have been here, you know, doing Tasting the Seas, really been active, chasing speakers, etc., trying to organize the themes, who have been so much engaged. And I think now everybody who is still here, who was a main organizer of a workshop, please stand up. Please stand up. And I think they all deserve a big round of applause. And while you are applauding, then the very final applause is then, I think, also going to the colleagues from IVL, Anna, Martin, Carla, where are you? Who have actually been instrumental also for the last session. Thanks a lot. And see you at the coffee and see you at the arena number 2 in Tallinn, in Estonia, on the 25th and the 26th of April.
And the big applause for Angela. And I know I'm coming to you. Thank you.
Okay. So, see you again in Tallinn, and off we go.
Thank you very much. It's all right. Thanks.